He was outnumbered, being hunted by 3 of the most advanced enemy jets in the Iraqi arsenal. And they weren't just trying to shoot him down. They were luring him straight into a trap that no pilot was supposed to survive. It's January 19th, 1991. The skies over Baghdad are on fire. American F-16s are diving in with bombs. Surface-to-air missiles are lighting up the airspace. And somewhere in that chaos, Captain Cesar Rico Rodriguez and his wingman are flying straight toward danger. Their mission? Protect the strike. Force at all costs. But what they didn't know was that the Iraqi Air Force had a different plan. They'd been waiting, watching, and now they were ready to spring a deadly ambush. 2 F-15s, 3 MiG-29s, 1 battlefield-sized. Game of cat and mouse. And what happened next would make this mission one of the most intense air battles of the Gulf War, and nearly cost Rico everything. The mission begins. The sun hadn't fully risen over the desert on January 19th, 1991, but war doesn't wait for daylight. 36 U.S. aircraft roared across Iraqi airspace, part of a massive airstrike headed straight for military targets near Baghdad. It was the heart of Operation Desert Storm, and the Iraqis knew it. High, above the formation, 2 F-15C Eagles carved their path through the sky. Captain Cesar Rico Rodriguez and his wingman, Captain Craig Mole Underhill, were flying escort, clearing the skies ahead to make sure nothing intercepted the strike force. Below them, waves of F-16s swooped low, dropping 2,000-pound bombs that sent enemy ammo depots into fiery explosions. The blasts lit up the desert, echoing across the horizon. The F-16s pulled hard, chaff and flares filling the air as they evaded enemy defenses. But missiles weren't the only threat. The Iraqi Air Force had launched something far more dangerous, a pair of MiG-29 Fulcrums. Fast, nimble, and deadly. These were Iraq's top-tier fighters, and they were hunting. They'd been holding back, waiting for the right moment. And now, with just 2 F-15s separated from the main force, the moment had come. The supersonic chase. The message crackled through Rico's headset like a warning bell. Rico, you have 2 hostile contacts. One bearing 040 for 35, second is 340 for 65. Without hesitation, Rico keyed his mic. Roger, we'll take the 040. They turned to face the threat. The enemy was closing in fast, and every second mattered. The F-15's radar lit up. A contact appeared on the screen. One blip, then another. And then something even more ominous flashed on Rico's radar warning receiver. 29. MiG-29, they were being targeted. I'm being painted, MiG-29. I see it, Mole replied. The 2 American pilots steadied themselves. This wasn't a standoff. It was a head-on charge. 4th-generation jets from 2 different worlds, now barreling toward each other at supersonic speeds. Rico selected an AM-7 Sparrow, ready to launch. But the MiGs weren't coming in for a clean kill. Instead, they dove sharply beneath the F-15s, using the Earth itself to mask their movement. It was a classic radar trick, hide in the ground clutter and vanish. But Rico had seen this before. One fuzzy radar contact suddenly split into 2. I got you. It's 2 versus 2. He locked onto one of them. The MiG pilot's warning systems immediately screamed a lock alert in his cockpit. But before Rico could fire, the enemy banked hard, and the lock vanished. The MiGs had slipped into the F-15's radar blind spot. Lost it. It wasn't a glitch. It was a tactic. And it was working. Radar blind spots and frustration, the MiG-29s weren't just dodging, they were dancing. Every time Rico locked them in, they'd vanish, slipping sideways into the one angle his radar couldn't track. Moving perpendicular to the F-15's nose, they'd disappear like shadows, at the edge of vision. Contact. Lost it again. It kept happening. Lock, lose, lose. The Fulcrums were exploiting the F-15's radar limitations with surgical precision, staying just visible long enough to bait the Americans forward, then vanishing again. And they kept the exact same distance, 12 nautical miles. Rico knew what was happening. They were dragging him. Not away, not around, but somewhere. On purpose. They're pulling us along, he muttered, eyes locked on the screen. And wherever the Iraqis were leading them, it wasn't anywhere good. But still, He couldn't turn back. Not with a whole strike package flying behind him, vulnerable to an attack. So he kept pushing forward, chasing ghosts across the sky. Far above, the AWACS controller, Mark White, watched the whole thing unfold. Rico and Mole were now exiting his area of responsibility. Protocol said he had to hand them off to another controller, but he had a bad feeling. Walking into a kill zone, the chase was heating up. But suddenly, it wasn't just the MiGs that had Rico's attention. His radar warning receiver flared to life. Dozens of signals, alarms, pings. It wasn't enemy aircraft this time. It was something worse. A full wall of surface-to-air missile systems lit up ahead. S-125 Neva launchers, stationed to defend. Baghdad had just entered the fight. Rico wasn't being dragged into a dogfight. He was being herded into a kill zone. "They're dragging us into the city's anti-air," he radioed to Mole. "What are we going to do?" Any sane pilot would have turned back. But Rico didn't have that option. Behind him, the F-16s were mid-strike, still dropping bombs. If he broke off now, those fulcrums would pounce on the strike force and wipe them out. He made the call. "Hold position. Keep pushing the bandits away until the strikes are done. Then we can get out of here." It was a dangerous gamble. Deliberately staying in enemy crosshairs to buy time. Every second stretched thin. The RWR kept clicking. Enemy radar scanning them constantly, painting them with deadly precision. But the MiGs weren't finished. They weren't just luring Rico into missiles. That was the distraction. The real threat was coming in silent, from the side. The stealth attack as Rico and Mole kept pressing forward, locked in a deadly radar chess match with the two MiGs. Something even more dangerous crept in from the side. A third fulcrum. It wasn't showing up on radar. It wasn't on their RWR. It was flying completely blind. Radar turned off, silent, invisible, and it was heading straight for them from the left flank. In the chaos, neither Rico nor Mole noticed. Their systems showed nothing. No lock, no warning. The MiG was flying dark, hoping to get close enough for a clean shot before anyone even knew it was there. But 30,000 feet above, someone did notice. Back in the AWACS, Mark White wasn't supposed to be watching anymore. Rico had already been handed off. But something about the silence didn't sit right. He glanced at the radar feed one more time, and froze. A fast-moving contact, low, and sneaking in from the west. No transponder, no friend or foe tag. White hesitated. If he spoke up, he could break protocol. But if he stayed quiet, Rico might not get the warning in time. The contact was already within 18 miles. Well within firing range, 6 miles. Still no reaction from the F-15s. 15, 14, that was it. Pop-up contact 330 degrees for 13 miles. The radio call broke through just in time. Rico didn't hesitate. He dropped his fuel tanks, pulled hard into the new direction, and his radar finally lit up with a target. Bogey. 8 miles out. 8 miles. That's missile range for both of them. But Rico still couldn't fire. Not yet. Rules of engagement required visual confirmation on any target within 10 miles. It could be a friendly aircraft, like a stealth F-117. Even with a lock and an RWR alert, they had to be sure. Mole prepped to fire, running an ID sequence through intel aircraft. But time was running out. Then came the final straw. The enemy pilot, now informed of Rico's location, turned on his radar, and just like that, the ominous 29 flared on Rico's screen. "I'm getting spiked." Fox 1, Mole, got the ID clearance. He fired. The Sparrow missile ripped through the air, a streak of smoke tracing toward the fulcrum. Rico watched it all from below, plummeting at the speed of sound, trying to stay alive. He spotted the MiG just in time. Nose pointed directly at him, about to fire. But the missile hit first, a white flash, and then the MiG vanished in a cloud of debris and black smoke. Split-second decision. The enemy fulcrum was gone, blown apart just seconds before it could fire. Rico pulled out of his high-speed dive with only 500 feet between him and the desert floor. His heart was pounding, adrenaline surging, but there was no time to catch his breath. Mark White's voice came back over the radio. "Second group north 10 miles. Another threat. Another set of contacts. And they were closing in fast." Rico scanned the sky and picked up the blips on radar. These weren't retreating. They were coming in hot. He considered turning back. The mission was complete. The F-16s were already heading home. But if he and Mole pulled out now, these new bandits could tail them. Or worse, catch the strike force from behind. They had to face it. The new contact appeared just over 10 miles away, outside the visual ID range, which meant Rico was cleared to fire. He ran the lock. The target was solid. Everything pointed to hostile. But just as his finger hovered over the launch button, something changed. "He lights up as a diamond on my scope," Mole called out. "Say again?" Rico replied, confused. "Solid radar contact just changed to a diamond. That means he's friendly." For a moment, the entire fight paused. Rico's systems were still screaming, "Hostile." His gut said enemy. But the onboard identification tech was saying something else. Could it be a glitch? Or was he seconds away from shooting down a friendly jet? He didn't have the luxury of sitting still. The bogey was now coming head-on, altitude high, angle steep. Rico made a snap call. No missile. Visual ID first. He pushed the throttle and aimed his nose straight at the incoming aircraft, climbing fast, staying just low enough to get a good look. Closer. Closer. And finally, the jet crossed overhead, painted in camouflage. Green. Markings clear. The Iraqi flag. "It's a MiG-29!" Rico called out. The threat was real, and now, it was personal. The dogfight. There was no more guessing now. Rico had eyes on the enemy, an Iraqi MiG-29, fully armed and flying straight into his airspace, and this time the formalities were over. This wasn't going to be a radar lock and missile shot. It was going to be a dogfight. Rico climbed sharply, crossing just above the MiG and spotting its top side, unmistakably camouflaged with the Iraqi flag. The moment he passed overhead, the MiG broke left in a flat turn, trying to outmaneuver him. He's not running. He wants a fight. Rico didn't hesitate. He flipped his F-15 upside down and pulled hard left, cutting into the MiG's circle. His body was crushed by 10 Gs of force. Blood drained from his head. Vision tunneled, but he held on, locked in a high-speed spiral. The MiG blasted past, roaring just in front of him. Rico rolled into pursuit, engines screaming, as both jets spiraled down toward the desert. The MiG dove, trying to gain speed and widen the gap. But Rico knew the game. He stayed with him, matching the descent, keeping the MiG in reach. Above them, Mole watched the two jets twisting through the sky like dueling arrows. "I can come in," Mole offered. "Stand by," Rico replied. This one was his. The MiG tried again, banking right, pulling a tighter loop. Rico matched it. Then they roared past each other in a gut-wrenching merge, blasting in opposite directions before flipping around and charging back in. Every move the Iraqi pilot made, Rico countered. Altitude was disappearing fast, so was time. But finally, Rico saw what he needed, the fulcrum drifting just ahead of his nose. He lined it up and selected an AIM-9 Sidewinder. He didn't have a lock yet, but he started leading the shot, angling ahead of the MiG's nose, waiting for the perfect moment. That's when the fulcrum tried one last desperate move. It flipped upside down and dove hard toward the sand. Rico was ready for evasive action, a break, a flare drop, a missile dodge. But what he saw shocked him. The MiG wasn't maneuvering. It was plunging, straight down. Rico didn't follow. He pulled left, watching from above. The Iraqi pilot was doing everything he could, slamming afterburners, pulling against the ground, pushing his MiG beyond its physical limits. But the G-forces were too much, and the ground was too close, with sand rushing into his windshield and no room left to climb. The MiG slammed into the desert in a burst of dust and twisted metal. Gone. Rico exhaled, his chest heaving. The radio clicked. "Tactical, right side," Mole called out, 2 miles off Rico's wing. The fight was over. The ambush had failed, and Rico Rodriguez had just survived one of the most calculated traps of the Gulf War. Outnumbered, nearly tricked, and still standing. The desert was quiet again. Rico leveled off, heart still racing with Mole flying steady off his right wing. Behind them, the strike force was already on its way home, untouched, successful, and unaware of just how close it had come to disaster. 3 MiG-29s had been sent to take down 2 F-15s. They had the advantage of surprise, numbers, and a battlefield rigged with surface-to-air missiles. But it hadn't been enough. Rico Rodriguez didn't just survive. He outmaneuvered them, outlasted them, and struck back with precision when it mattered most. By the time the mission ended, Rico had notched his third confirmed air-to-air kill, tying him for the most MiG victories by any American pilot since Vietnam. But more than that, he had proven something that day. Not just about air power or tactics or advanced aircraft. He proved that in modern warfare, when systems fail and protocols fall short, it's still the pilot in the seat, his instincts, his choices, his timing, that decides who makes it home. It was close today, one pilot later said. 2 same-generation fighters, head-to-head. True. Not like when our F-16s ate hawks for breakfast. For Rico, it wasn't about ego. It was about doing the job and surviving to tell the story. And for everyone watching from the ground, from AWACS or from behind a screen years later, it's a reminder that the line between victory and disaster in air combat can be razor thin and measured in seconds. And let me know if you'd like a call to action line to include at the end for your video, e.g., like, comment, watch more. I can also compile the whole script into one clean file or prep the next one.